I'm typing this now at 1 in the morning because I can't sleep. Let me give you a little context, I guess. I live off the side of a main road in a small town in Kentucky, in an even smaller community, and a lot of not so friendly looking people walk up and down the road at all hours. Around me on the property is me, my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, and his family. My husband and his brother drive trucks for a living, and they are over the road during the week, so we're pretty much alone. For that reason, I won't be using any names. At around 9 p.m., I was sitting in my bedroom going over a creepypasta that I was going to tell on my live scary story show that I had started on Facebook. Little did I know I would be living out my own true scary story tonight. Out of nowhere, my little Yorkie daughter had started freaking out, saying they heard knocking outside. I assumed it was my sister-in-law coming to tell me that my husband's outside dog had gotten loose, which tends to happen on rainy nights such as this. But when I got to the door, there was no one there. It was a windy night, so I assumed the wind had blew something against the house and just made a sound that had scared them. I then returned to my room to get back to work on the story and then left my door open. Then I heard it. I was trying to convince myself that I was hearing things that were not there. Just to be safe, I went to have a look, and no one was there. I told myself if someone was there, the security camera would have alerted my phone of any motion. I gave up on writing my story for a brief moment, and then sat in the living room to see if I would hear the knocking. I did. It wasn't a light tapping like one would hear if the wind was blowing or a house settling, but it was 5 actual knocks. I ran to the door, and no one was there. I began to panic because it sounded as if it was the side of the house out of range of the camera. I figured just to be safe, I would call my dad to come take a look around. When I called my dad's phone, my mom answered. The conversation went as followed. "Hey Mom, I think someone's outside my house knocking on it." "Honey, your daughter thinks someone's outside her house." "Okay, he's putting on his shoes, he'll be there in a minute." While I waited for my dad to make the 2-minute drive, I had called my husband to keep me calm while I waited and tried to play it off like I wasn't in full-on panic mode in front of my daughter. And I then went ahead and sent my daughter to my room and I told her to lock the door since her door didn't have a lock on it. My husband was telling me that I was overreacting, which I fully believed him, but I just wanted to make sure everything was okay. One thing about my dad is he may be little, but he can be very intimidating. And if his loved ones are in danger, you better run for your life because he can really turn into a mixture of the Hulk and the Flash in no time. So my dad gets here and walks all around my house and up and down my yard and then verified that no one was here. I explained what we were hearing and he had said the same thing my husband said, that we were just scaring ourselves. Shortly after, my dad leaves and I then hear gunshots outside my house. I grabbed my husband's shotgun and then ran to the door in panic, and I then started turning lights off. I looked outside, but I didn't see any sign of anyone. My husband then calls and he had said to grab his gun and then get our daughter into our room calmly and then lock the bedroom door. Yeah, she heard the shots too, so there was no calmly to it. I asked what was going on and he explained that my sister-in-law had called her husband complaining of the same knocking at her house. Then my husband called his father to let him know, and he had complained of the same knocking at his bathroom window. And he had went outside to make a point to whoever was outside messing with us and began to shoot some rounds off to nicely say, "I'm armed and I'm not afraid to use it." What really put it all together into reality for me was the fact that I hadn't even spoken to neither my father-in-law or sister-in-law to tell them about the knocking, because I assumed it was just my imagination. So how would they have known if it didn't actually happen to them as well? I asked if I should go outside and shoot some rounds off myself just to make a point of my own. He advised me not to do that because this person may very well have been trying to lure someone outside this whole time to do God knows what. This has triggered a flashback to years ago when we were in our old single wide on the same property, when I came face to face with a man trying to open my back door when I was home alone. So yeah. Now I'm awake and I'm typing the story at 1 a.m. sitting next to my husband's gun on the couch while my child is in my bed finally sleeping. I really advise everyone out there to always keep your doors and windows locked at all times and to always trust your gut feeling. If something doesn't feel right, then it probably isn't. Stay safe out there. This happened when I was 16. At the time, it was October, and I would often go for walks at night and listen to music just to decompress and collect my thoughts. Once in a while, I would see something strange, but for the most part, I never had any particularly bad encounters with anyone. That is, until this one night. It was about 12:30 a.m., and looking back at it now, it was really stupid to walk alone that late at night, especially as a young girl. But like I said, nothing bad ever really happened to me before. I remember I was walking to the park in my neighborhood to swing on the swings because that park has a very pretty view of the city. However, as I was walking there, I got a very bad instinct. Like I had this bad feeling that something bad was going to happen to me. I should have just turned around then, but I figured I was just having anxiety. I remember walking up the street to cross the main road to get to the park across the street when I saw this turquoise-looking car sitting idly with its headlights on. Though it was a main road, it was late at night, so there were no cars out. So when the car saw me, it started driving towards me. I got a bad feeling, so I started walking up the main road. The car started slowly driving behind me. The road is 30 miles per hour, so when the car didn't just drive past me, I had then suspected that they were following me. I was right. I kept walking and the car kept creeping behind me for a few blocks. I remember getting scared, so I just got my phone out and got on it. I kept looking back and trying to make it obvious that I was aware they were following me. I tried to call my mom, but she didn't answer. So after a few minutes of being terrified and the car hadn't stopped, I called 911. I put the operator on speakerphone and I told her the situation. I looked back and I saw that the car had slowed down about half a block. I thought the car had maybe stopped for a few seconds because the headlights were blinding, so it was really hard to see what was going on. I then realized that the car was in fact still following me, just at an extremely low speed that from the distance made it look like they had stopped. This had creeped me out even more because I thought the car was trying to trick me. Soon after, the operator had asked my location. I then saw the car slowly make a U-turn and then head back down the street. I told the operator that I didn't need them to send anyone out because the car had turned around, but I had had a feeling that the car might come back. So I quickly walked to a nearby alley that I had found and walked all the way down, looking over my shoulder every few seconds just to make sure that no one was following me. I hid for about 20 minutes behind a dumpster on the side of the alley. I made sure I was out of view from anyone passing by the said alley. After about 20 minutes, I had decided to get up and leave. As I was leaving the alley, I had heard a male voice then yell out, "Hey!" I then ran out of the alley, only to find that at the end parked in the front of the alley was the same car that had been following me. The car was sitting with its lights on. I decided that it wasn't worth risking going back up the alley, so I had decided to just run right past the car. I held my phone out and had faked a phone call saying that I'd be home shortly. I was about 30 seconds away from my house, so I just booked it the whole rest of the way. I didn't even check behind me, I just ran. I got home safely, but I was left with a lot of questions. I thought that I was safe waiting in that alley. I didn't think anyone had seen me hiding, but I guess I was wrong. The whole experience had me really shaken up. I hope by submitting this story it'll really encourage more people to be more careful about walking alone at night, as well as always be wary of your surroundings, because I really thought I was safe by myself, but I was wrong. This happened around 2019. I'm happy to say I'm a 25-year-old female, but at the time it took place, I was 19 years old. A little backstory is I live in Queens, New York, in a very populated area. I always used to walk from my house to the gym and blast music on my headphones all the time. It's like a 45-minute walk, and I was never scared. I always used to do it, Besides, there's so many people around that what's the worst that can really happen? Or so I thought. Now on to the story. I was on my way back home from the gym. For some reason, I had heard a voice in my head telling me to turn back and that I was in danger over and over. I had my headphones on and I had decided to listen to completely silence my music. I then decided to look behind me, and I had seen a white male with a blue t-shirt and dark jeans and black and white Converse shoes. I honestly don't know how to explain it, but the look he had while he was staring at me from behind wasn't a perverted way, but more of a psychopath. I wouldn't know how to explain it, but it wasn't anything flirty at all. And besides, even if it was, I would have never put myself in that situation. After I noticed he was following me, every time I stopped, he stopped, as well as every time I walked, he walked. And he had me like that for a good 4 blocks. That is until I then saw a fire hydrant, and I decided to sit on top of it and smoke a cigarette to think and relax and just see if he would pass me. Well, turns out he didn't. And with me being so stressed out, I had never paid attention to the store in front of me that had a clear glass door. And there was a guy inside with his bike speaking to someone on the phone. Please remember him, as this is really important in the story. Well, I threw half my cigarette, and I decided to go in the grocery store and then get a water bottle, just so the store attendant won't think I'm weird and just standing inside the store. I went and grabbed the water bottle and paid the store attendant, and as soon as he saw me, he had noticed my face that I was in distress. And mind you, my hands were also shaking as I had handed the cash to the clerk. Because I mean, who knows what this freak wanted to do to me. The store clerk then asked me what was wrong, and I had told him a guy is following me. He then asked me who it was so he could check the cameras. Lo and behold, the fucking psycho was standing next door. Maybe like a minute passes by, and remember when I said the door had a clear glass door? Next thing you know, he had pressed his face right against the door with his 2 hands, and we then made eye contact. But his stare wasn't normal. Never have I dreaded something so much at that time. My heart dropped into my stomach, and I felt like I wanted to vomit in all seriousness. Thank God the guy never entered the store. I probably stayed in the store for about 15 to 20 minutes when the store clerk then told me, "He's gone now, you're safe." I was so scared to go outside though because I had like a 15-minute walk home. And who knows if he had crossed the street and was planning to hunt me that way. I'd opened the door and looked from left to right and across the street. I had 1 foot in the store and 1 foot out the store. I honestly didn't even want to leave at that point still. So remember when I said there was this guy who was on the phone and had his bike next to him? Well, he wasn't on the phone anymore. And he had also noticed my face and how I looked so scared. I was honestly shitting bricks at this point. So he had asked me what's wrong. Well, I told him that a guy was following me and that I'm really scared. He had asked me who the guy was, and then he had went on to describe what the guy looked like and asked if it was him. I immediately told him yes and asked him how he knew. Well, what he said next gave me even more chills. He then said to me, "I saw him waiting outside the store and he had asked me if I'd seen his girlfriend, that she had went inside the store." He also said that he was standing around for a good 15 minutes. I had never felt so scared in my life. Well, if I told you before my heart dropped into my stomach, well this time I almost shit it out. He had offered to walk me home safely, and honestly at the time he was my angel and a blessing all at the same time. He walked with me home the 15 minutes, and honestly I'm so thankful for him. I don't know if this is that scary to most of you, but it definitely fucked with my head. My advice to all of you is to always trust that voice that you hear in your head, and always trust your gut instincts. When I was a little girl, my family lived in a bad part of the neighborhood. Many would refer to this as the ghetto, and I would agree. There are many things that I could talk about, but I'm going to talk about an incident that happened to my mom. I was about 5 years old and my brother was around 3. My mom was feeding my baby sister when she had heard banging on the door. I later found out that he was kicking the door. It was getting close to dinner, so my mom wasn't expecting anyone. The only person she knew would be home soon would be our dad, so why would our own father knock on his door? She then went over to look out the window that was next to the door. There she saw a teenager standing at her door. My mom had seen this teen living in our area with his mother. The guy kept looking back at the driveway and talking to someone. My mom knew that this looked sketchy, and knowing that she had 3 small children, one of whom she was holding, she had waited to see what would happen. He banged once again on the door and then continued talking to someone. My mom was trying to keep us kids quiet so that the dude didn't know that we were home. When he tried to kick the door again, my mom took her fist and then banged on the door as loud as she could. It turns out there were 4 to 5 guys that were hiding in our front yard. She also realized that when she banged on the door, she had scared the guy and he took off running with his friends coming out of their hiding places. She soon called the cops and told them what happened, but I don't really remember if they ever got arrested or not. My dad later told me that he had saw those same boys trying it again and he chased them away. I'm now 21 years old, and I still thank God that he gave me a brave mother who would protect her children from harm. For anyone out there who's living in a scary area, please either get out of there or if you can't, use your Second Amendment to keep yourself and your loved ones safe. I'm a 19-year-old man who lives in a small town in Arizona. I work down in Phoenix at a mechanic shop where I do small auto repair jobs. I travel 60 miles to work every day on this one deserted highway to get there and back. I also do have a little bit of a bad habit with smoking cigars from my late grandpa, who I always really looked up to, and we used to smoke cigars together, and it led to my addiction to smoking a cigar after work. I live with my girlfriend and her parents who are huge anti-smokers. I usually leave my job and go grab a cigar from this humidifier near my job. I usually light up and smoke behind the nearby Home Depot every day before I make the long drive home. I haven't ever been bothered by anyone up until about a week ago. I was just minding my own business, smoking a cigar behind the Home Depot and scrolling through TikTok. I looked up for half a second and I had noticed this ratty old gold Nissan Versa parked across from me near the loading dock. I didn't pay attention at first to it, but then 20 minutes later, I noticed the same car, but this time there's 2 people sitting in the car just staring at me. I didn't know if they were just waiting for someone or if they were on their break, so I just paid no mind to it. Then about another 20 minutes go by. I go to put my cigar out, and I still see them there. At this point, I jump in my car, start the engine, and start to pull out of the parking lot. As soon as I go to turn on the main road to get to the I-10 to head home, I see the Versa in my rear view. Again, I pay no mind to it and then merge onto the main road and keep going on my way home. I eventually get on the highway and start heading towards home, but then I go to look in my rearview mirror and I see the same fucking car still behind me. I decided to maybe let's see if they're actually following me, and I get in the next lane over and start accelerating, thinking I'm going to lose them. For reference, I drive a 2002 Cadillac DeVille DTS with a very powerful V8 engine, while they have a gutless little economy car. I started accelerating and passing almost everyone, getting in the HOV lane going triple digits until I passed the city limits of Phoenix, and I then started slowing back down. I thought that I had lost them and just started driving normally again. But then I saw the Versa 4 cars back gaining fast on me. So I started accelerating yet again, trying to put distance on us. I thought it worked and that was my final encounter with them. I get off my exit sometime later, and then I stopped at a Maverick gas station to top off my gas after all that hard driving. I then go inside to grab a couple of energy drinks and to go to the bathroom. As soon as I come back outside, that same fucking Versa was in the parking lot. I knew it was the same car, but there was no one in it this time. I then decided that I'm going to take a picture of the plates to report it to the police later on. I go to the rear of the car to find no license plate, and just when I was about to walk to my car, I then see 2 tall, skinny white guys with meth sores all over their faces, and they start running towards me. I jumped in my car, locked the doors, and tried starting my car so fast so I can get the fuck out of there. One of the guys runs over and actually starts banging on my passenger window and starts yelling at me. I didn't care what he had to say, so I just started pulling out of there like hell, and I didn't see the other guy get in their little Versa and attempt to box me in. I quickly go around him and almost lose control of the big boat of a car that I had due to the torque steer, but thank God I didn't. I started speeding through the desolate streets and quickly see a little side road. I then merge in there and start making random turns and hit out in a random driveway with high shrubbery. I turn off my car and wait 10 minutes just to determine if I should go to the police or not. I started heading home, starting to question why they went after me. Did I provoke them in some way? There's no way they were security because that parking lot had no security. I still don't understand why they were so desperate to follow me 50 miles to a gas station in a desolate town. If they tried to rob me, I don't think they'd get much from a broke 19-year-old. I haven't told anyone this story but my girlfriend, and she told me to be careful and to stay away from that parking lot. I haven't returned to that parking lot ever since that day, and I now choose to smoke somewhere else. Hey everyone, that's about it for today's stories. If you have your own story that you would like to send, you can send it in at southerncannibal.com, or you can email it at southerncannibalstories@gmail.com. I look forward to telling your story. Have a good night or good day, everyone, and remember to always